Welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker, and I'm your host. And today I have an exciting show together. I have Nathan Todd, who is the Muscle Motivator, and we're going to be talking about, a specific aspect of how we manage our time, our energy, and we're going to relate that into how you can take back time in the way that you think. And we're going to look specifically around labels, and we'll unfold that as it comes to play here. Nathan Todd, just a few words about this Muscle Motivator. You'll see some amazing videos about what he's doing, and he doesn't only motivate in the gym and for your physical muscles. He's also motivating as on stage as a speaker and helping you to, create that muscle in your mind. So he's a coach, he's an author, he's got an upcoming book, which he's going to tell us some more about, and I'm sure that it's going to be a bestseller. And without further ado, Nathan, it is great to have you here today.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Penny. And it's just, you're right, labels take up so much of our time. For the past 9 years, I've been coaching people with disabilities, and the biggest thing that impacts success is the label that they believe that is true for themselves as it is for all of us. We put these labels on our chest, and where we would most like them to be Superman, Wonder Woman, things like that, it doesn't always stick that way.
That's right. Before we go into that, because I definitely want to ask you some specific questions around that. Tell us about your background and your journey and what led you to write this book that you've got coming up.
Yeah, so I was born 8 weeks premature. I'm an individual who has cerebral palsy, and life has definitely been a journey away from things that people take for granted, from learning to walk, even knowing what school would look like is very unique when you have a disability. And so luckily I had a great support system in my corner who fought for me to be treated like everyone else and did not put labels on me. They did not expect anything less from me. So I graduated from high school and went on to college and got my degree there. And really,
amazing.
What got me thinking about the book.
What's the name of the book? So promote your book a little. Let's see the picture of it.
It's Power Yourself, Awaken the B.E.A.S.T Within.
B.E.A.S.T.
And I was thinking, what are steps that I took and tools I used that helped me become successful? And it started with that belief, right? I had to have belief that something was going to happen. And then as I understood what I believed, I started to explore that and see, how do I turn that into reality? And the big thing about success, I believe, is you have to have the belief, but unless you take action on it, then the belief is just sitting there. That's right. As something you wish for.
Dream.
Yeah. And you have to learn to celebrate your success. And then the greatest thing is being able to teach it to someone else, to spread that knowledge and to help someone who's not at the point you are to start believing that they can do something.
That's huge. And I've had a special preview of the book, and I've been through it, and it's also a workbook, right? Which is what I loved about it, is that people can really not just play with concepts, but really put it into practice for themselves. So I'm excited for this bestseller to come to the market and get that. Let's go back to the label aspect, right? So you're born with a disability, and you said so people held you to you know, to normal expectations, if you want to call it, to regular
Hmm.
everyday expectations. So did you find that people were labeling you, if it wasn't your mom or your parents, did you find that others were labeling you, and how did that impact you?
Oh, absolutely. Other people would label me. Um, and what I can say looking back on that is, again, going back to the support system, even though it was happening from other people, I didn't see that necessarily at the time because I had all these other people telling me, well, that's not true.
Great.
But an example would be in sixth grade, I moved and had to go to a brand new school, also entering middle school, which was crazy. Um, and they wanted to put me in special ed. And I can only imagine if that were to happen,
Mm.
all the things that I'd been told and believed up until that point would have just been like down the toilet, because I would have been like, well, was any of what I went through actually true? Or are these new standards true for me?
Right. And I wanted to highlight that because, you're very fortunate that you had a great support system and that you were strong to believe in, I want to call it the labels that you were given, because we all do have labels, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
Superman, right? Or whether it's something else. And there's a lot of people out there that they're held back. They're limited by the labels that they've heard around them. I know people, and it doesn't have to be a disability. People in
No.
school are told that they're stupid, right? And so all of a sudden they take that on as though, well, maybe it is true, and then they believe it, and then it really holds back and limits them, right? It limits their potential. So I want people to really recognize if they have any labels. If you're listening to this, do you have any labels that others have given you or that you've accepted that are limiting your potential? Because that's a waste of energy, right? That runs in the background, that keeps you from progressing and actually achieving the very things that you want. Have you seen that, and what do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. Through my experience as a coach, uh, I would see people come in every day and they would be like, well, I can't do that.
The
My
can't.
even they would say, where my parents would push me the other way, you have some parents who don't believe that it's possible for their kids, so
Right.
it's getting reinforced that way. And it's really, really easy to rise to low expectation or no
Yeah.
expectation. And it's real big how you're going to spend your time, because it's an easy story to play out. You have a lot of people who, just based on their mindset, are just sitting on the couch. They're way smarter than people have given them credit for. They
Yeah.
can do a whole lot more than people have given them credit for. But until somebody comes along and says, I believe in you, they don't start to believe it for themselves.
How do you help them to believe it for themselves when they don't have a supported system or structure around them?
So, what I've found to be successful is to relate it to real life situations that I've seen with other people that they know about, or maybe it's something where I am able to use my own story and my own experience. Say, well, this is how I did it. Your way might look a little different, but if I can do it, you for sure can do it.
Definitely. I love that one. There was a story. People asked me, how did I start my own company, and what motivated me. And I was working at a company full time as a regular employee, and across from me sat a contractor who was making like $250 an hour. And I guess if you calculated what I was making, maybe it was like 25 or $30 an hour. And
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, this guy, he was no smarter than I was. He was no more educated than I was. And I thought, I can do this. If he can do this, I can do it too. So there was some kind of motivation for me to know that someone else was doing it, and I am, I should take the opportunity and do it too. At least not complain about it and say that I should be there, or those kinds of things. So that's what really motivated me to do it, is because there is someone out there who's doing it, and we can create what we want in our lives. As long as we know that someone else has done it, we can do it. And and there's always those people who were the first to run the 4-minute mile, or the first to make the impossible possible.
And the great thing is, if somebody was working with me, I'm not that far ahead of where you can be. So it makes it more of a realistic vision right there in front of you. I'm not making millions of dollars. I'm just some guy who lives in your community. At the point when I was doing the coaching, you can see me around town. So it's not an unrealistic vision to be able to say you can do this too.
So tell me, what is, for your opinion, we're talking about how to be smarter about the way that we do things. And so what do you think is a cost? What are some of the costs that people have, from your opinion, or that you've seen, for example, when people label themselves, or even when they label other people?
I think when you label yourself and it's a negative label, the cost is you're ultimately not happy. I believe that the cost is you don't bring to life things that only you can make happen based on your experience. And I think when other people put labels on people, they miss out on great opportunities of meeting an awesome human being. They miss out on people who have skills that they assume the people do not have, just based on physical appearance. From my experience, a lot of times people automatically assume that I have an intellectual disability just from the way that I walk up to them, and that's absolutely not true. It's just,
and then they lose the ability to connect with you and to see the gifts that you have, and to utilize them. I can imagine in an organization, right? And again, I think this goes for disabilities or not, right? Any kind of labels that we put on people that keep us from seeing the gifts that they have in any type of organization, it hampers teamwork, because you could be really bringing a lot more to the table, but if people aren't giving you that opportunity because they're limiting the potential of that interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a group of individuals that I worked with at one point, and they would be considered severely disabled, and talk about the greatest teachers of how we should live life and how we should spend our time. I mean, they were able to connect with one another. They cared for one another. And people would say that technically they're not as valuable, or they can't do as many things as other people, but learn so much from just taking the time to get to know the person and not look at what society was saying about them.
So how do you help people who may be listening and they may think, I'm kind of judgmental, and I kind of do that. I put labels on people, and we all kind of do to some extent. There's a psychology that within the first few minutes that we meet somebody, we've kind of decided whether we like them, whether what we think about their energy and so forth. How do you help people to stay open? What are some suggestions that you have so that people can really embrace each other for who they are?
So I think the first thing is you have to notice that you're having that conversation with yourself, that what you said happens. We put labels automatically without thinking. And it really, to me, when I think about that, I think about if I was looking in a mirror and talking to myself, people to think that I am these negative labels that I'm placing on this person in front of me. So thinking about every conversation as a reflection of what's coming from you. So reflecting the energy and the golden rule, right? Treat your neighbor as you would want to be treated. I think that's the first step, is noticing and thinking about, look, this could be me on this other side of this conversation.
Totally. I mean, we can't make change in our life without that awareness, right? So noticing, just being more conscious and paying attention to what's going on in our head is absolutely critical. What would you think is the second thing after they've noticed? What could they do next?
I think it's taking the action of actually talking to people, not just doing the normal walking down the street or being around people and doing the head nod and the simple acknowledgement that we always give. Like, we always say, how you doing? I'm fine. But actually saying, hey, I want to get to know that person, and stopping to talk to them, introduce yourself. Because once you start talking to people, there's more of a connection, and you realize a lot of times what you thought wasn't true.
So true. I mean, it's, I always say that it's, when we're curious, then we can be into questions, right? Versus and push away any kind of assumptions or judgments or whatever. It's just to get curious, to get to know the person, like you said, and ask questions and interact and listen, right? When we're curious, we're actually listening versus, like you said, sort of that superficial conversation that isn't really looking to get to know somebody or really listening to who they are.
And I think kids are the best teachers for that concept.
Oh, they totally are, yes.
They will come up and they will ask all kinds of questions. They will just say, hey, why do you walk the way you walk? What do you do for work? They just ask random, whatever's on their mind, right. It's coming out.
Right.
And so I think from that aspect, what I've experienced is, if you're a parent of that kid, to let that interaction happen. If it's someone that they're speaking with a disability, let it happen, and then see what you can learn from your kid having that interaction. And if you're someone like me with the disability, actually realize that, wow, if you are able to talk to this kid, you are changing the perception of what it means to have a disability.
Absolutely. And that is important, right? To be interactive so that you can help to change what other people's perceptions are, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, you and I both went through, the Next Level Leadership Program, right? So it's being the source, that the energy that we create and that we provide in ourselves is also what we generate in others. So we get to be responsible for that, right? Be the source of it.
Yeah. And that taught me a valuable lesson about labels, because the thing I kept hearing was, why are you hiding? And I kept thinking, well, that's not how I want to show up in the world, but I keep hearing it over and over. So it's something I need to listen to and I need to reflect on.
Mm-hmm. So, you have this, sorry, I was going to ask a question and I need to look at my notes here. Yeah, you said you've got sort of this this motto, right? No label defines me. So tell me where that came from and how you're using that.
So it started as a brainstorm, sitting at a whiteboard and kind of thinking about we are, but the great thing about labels is whether it's clothes, whether it's the food we eat, like say I'm drinking a Coke or something, I can peel that right off. If that's not what I want to be, I just peel away the label and I'm able to replace it with something that is more empowering to me. Because we are all, I believe, creating our own story that we're all the hero of. And with no labels, it's not the fact that we won't be defined by labels. It's the fact that we get to choose how we define ourselves. And that's what we should strive to bring into the world.
Well, that's where our real power is that we get to define who we are and how we show up, right? It's you know, in other words that people use, you know, our labels that we make for ourselves and live by would be considered our identity, right? And that's everything that comes after I am, right? That's how we define ourselves. And yeah, we're either going to open up potential for ourselves or we're going to limit ourselves. And what I heard you say that I think is important is to understand that your behavior is not it's not an identity. It's a behavior. And like you said, you can change it in a second, right? We can change behavior as we see that it's not suiting us. But we don't have to take any particular behavior as a definition of who we are.
Yeah. And I mean, there are circumstances that are placed in our life that we don't have control over, but we're 100% responsible for how we react to those circumstances placed in front of us. So do we want to be a source of, yeah, I can do this, or man, this is way too hard. I can't believe that this is happening to me.
Right. Right. I'd love to see, like, when I heard that statement, you know, no label defines me. That sounds like a really awesome, like, community statement. Do you know what I mean? Like that could go viral, right? No label defines me. Like, I'd love to see, like, people reporting in how they feel when they step into that space that no label defines me, right? It can be life-changing to shift from all those labels that define us to no labels define us.
Absolutely. And that's with my Instagram and stuff. That's what I hope to start building as people get the t-shirt and everything. I want to see the stories of how other people connect to no label defines me, because the way that it empowers me is going to be different than the way it empowers you or someone else. But the great thing is there's a connecting thread that we are all living a life that we are choosing moment to moment, and we are choosing to be empowered.
So let's come back to, you know, the theme, take back time. Talk about, so how does this save us time and energy when we remove those labels, when no label defines us? How are we taking back time, in your opinion?
I think when I reflect on that, it really means that when I think about, I choose the label of being an author or a speaker, I'm able to prioritize, okay, if I am these things, how do I need to spend my time? Or if I'm on the opposite end and I have a negative label placed on me, I'm just sitting around not really feeling like doing anything. And so my time is wasted, but it's only wasted because I don't believe anything else is possible for me throughout my day. So I don't plan accordingly.
So that's so powerful, right? It's so powerful what you just said, is that based on how we define ourselves is how and where we're going to spend our time. And so if you define yourself as I am a procrastinator, right, or I am disabled, or any of those types of labels that are unproductive are going to define how you're going to spend your time and where you're going to spend it. If you define yourself as I am an entrepreneur, I am a game changer, right? You're going to be looking at things differently. I am a teacher. Then you're going to be looking to teach and educate others. It's completely different, right, than those other types of definitions. So it's really, really powerful. So we're either, making the best use of our time and investing in our future and other people's future, or we're wasting it.
And look at all the stories of people like LeBron and Michael Jordan. I mean, they knew exactly what they were doing from the time that they woke up to the time that they went to bed, and it was all based on the label that they had given themselves. And then people bought into, man, they are some of the greatest to do what they're doing. So to be the greatest, you have to put your action to what your belief is.
Absolutely. You got to work at it, right? It's not coming for free. In the context of, it doesn't matter what kind of natural skill that we have and might
Yeah.
define ourselves as a musician or as an athlete. At the same time, you've got to work at it to build those skills.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners before we sign off? And definitely want to get your website information and where they can find out more information about your book.
Yeah, so the website is themusclemotivator.com, and it's I have pages on both Facebook and Instagram under the same name. The book will be on Amazon. And
when's the launch date?
So it is going to be 15 days from right now. Whatever.
We need a date.
Yeah, so
Quickly look it up. We need a date. People need to know, right? I don't know when they're going to be listening to this, but
yeah,
launch dates are important. We want everybody to come out and celebrate the launch date and buy the book, help you to reach that bestseller status and to get as many people as possible, following this system of unleashing your beast within.
yeah, absolutely. So I will get you that so we can put the actual date in some notes or something. Then I think final words, something that you just touched on is the importance of I am. And I've really been focusing on that this week about creating some sort of affirmation for myself. And so every morning I wake up and I actually post this on social media and I'm saying, I am unique, I am seen, I am empowered, I create my future, no label defines me. And I think that's something that you can put into action today.
Absolutely.
You can make up your own affirmation to create who you want to become. If you're not that person already, just start with one practice and build, like the compound effect. Start with one thing and start to build on that one thing, and it becomes massive.
So for people who aren't familiar with that, how can an affirmation support me in that? Let's say they're like, yeah, well, I want to be that, but I don't really believe it. Like, how's an affirmation going to help me?
Well, so I can tell you from this past week, when I created that affirmation, I'm starting to just, because it's a repetitive pattern, it's like being in the gym and being the muscle motivator, right? Every time I do it, it's a rep. The first time you walk into a gym and do something, you're not going to be able to lift 135 pounds. It takes time. And I think it's, again, the pattern. And then just when I say I am, my brain starts going, oh, okay. I didn't think that, but now I said it. And
Right.
it's like, this is true for me. So I don't know what is true for you, the listener, but if you find out what you think you want to become, and you start repping that every day, just saying it, writing it down, doing a video like I do, it becomes something that you see and you hear, and it just becomes reality.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here, Nathan. This was a great interview. I really enjoyed it, and I know that everybody who is listening is also taking away some key pieces. And just to close out the show today, I want to also just say that, you know, with that last point to reinforce what we're talking about, is that our words have tremendous energy and the tremendous impact. And whether it's an affirmation that it comes across, and the more that we say it, the more that we feel it you know, we hear it, we see it, we feel it, it becomes a part of who we are because we're getting completely associated with it. The more we say it, the more it becomes part of who we are. And we need to recognize that. So we need to recognize the labels that we're giving ourselves, the labels that we're giving others. And the true fact is, as Nathan said really clearly, no label defines us. We are far bigger and more powerful than any label can actually put into words. So with that, I want you to open up your possibilities and use your time wisely in what you say and then the actions that you take, because what you say and those words and how you define yourself is going to determine what actions you take. And that is how you are going to take back your time. So thank you everybody for being here. My name is Penny Zenker, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye everyone.